Hey, Kara Oosterhuis here with RealAgriculture.com. We are back here today with another live, or as I see Danny Ottenbright, who is commenting off of Twitter, I believe, says it's another episode of Kara's Book Club. No, it is not a book club. However, I think it'd be pretty darn cool to have a book club. So if anyone wants to, we used to have a Real Ag book club. So if anyone's got some ag-based or any books you're reading, send them to me. COVID has made me a huge reader, so that's my little shout out request for today. But anyways, I am so excited for today's conversation. I am bringing on a friend of mine and a wonderful agronomist, Kelsey Banks. Kelsey is a agronomist and a farmer in Ontario. How's it going today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. So, where are you located in Ontario?
Well, right at this moment, I'm in Kemptville, Ontario, which is about a half hour south of Ottawa. So, yeah, in good old Eastern Ontario.
And as Lindsay's already commenting, she says, nice cardigan, Muriel. I believe she's talking to me like I'm dressed like an old lady today. Whatever, it's fine. But I'm gonna point out Kelsey's sweater here. She's got herself a pumpkin sweater, and for those of you that follow Kelsey on Twitter and know her well, you know she is a pumpkin farmer. Do you want to tell us a bit about pumpkins in the last couple years? What sort of changes have you guys seen? You started growing pumpkins when you were young. What was that like?
Well, I guess like the for us, like growing pumpkins has always been well, it started out being a whole family affair, kind of, so to speak. And then I think that I was kind of the one who had the crazy idea of keep on growing pumpkins because I love them so much, I guess. But the other thing though too is is people love pumpkins. It's PSL everything in October. So, as you know. So yeah, I think that overall, like, I mean, I can't even begin to tell you what changes there are because my dad's an agronomy field crop researcher and I'm an agronomist, and let me tell you, we like to switch it up.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you said, you grew asparagus when you were young. What got you more interested in pumpkins versus growing asparagus?
I will not lie to you one bit. Harvesting asparagus is hard. It's hard on your back. I mean, when I was a kid, I was shorter, and I could, by the time you like bend down, and then cut and cut and cut and cut. And I didn't mind it, but the pumpkins, I got a squat workout out of it, so yeah, I continued on with those. But actually, the other reason though too was that there are a few people that start getting into asparagus like in their backyard gardens. So there wasn't really as big of a need for me to do it like on our own farm.
And as Lindsay's writing here, pumpkin pie, pumpkin spice, pumpkin scones, pumpkin bread. What's not to love? Question though, do you love pumpkin, or like I know you love growing pumpkins, I know you're proud of the pumpkins you grow, but are you actually the pumpkin spice latte girl too?
Oh, I am like the pumpkin queen. I do. I really like pumpkin pie and pumpkin everything. I'm also an avid baker, so I tend to bake quite a bit of pumpkin spice goodies. So
So before we get into the grit of the interview here, baking, COVID has brought out some, I think it's made some people who said they never bake become bakers. So
yeah.
anything you tried this year that you loved or any epic fails?
I would have to say that my favorite thing that I started getting into making was actual like pumpkin spice dessert scones. I had never had those before. Oh, it's good. They're good. It's like glazed vanilla icing. It's pretty tasty.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue with that. If you ever want a road trip post COVID down to Alberta and bring some of those with you, I'm sure all of us would not argue. So this last year was kind of a very tough year for you. Not only were you not able to grow pumpkins, not only was there COVID, But you had a bit of a journey. Why I can't even have the right words because it's not a bit of a journey. It's your own journey. But you were last January, I believe, diagnosed with brain cancer. Do you want to talk a bit about that?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, last January I was diagnosed with actually the original diagnosis started out with pneumonia of all things, believe it or not. But it was because the way that we had found out about the seizure was because I had, or sorry, the tumor was because I had a seizure, and they took me to the hospital to figure out what was wrong, as I'm not epileptic. And it ended up, they sent me on to another doctor to get checked out, and they had left me with some meds for pneumonia. And then I ended up getting an MRI, just to see like what was going on, because some things didn't really match up and what was going on from the other doctor. And that was how they found the brain tumors. So I ended up going to downtown Toronto to get the diagnosis and everything. And it was very tough. I'm very grateful for my dad, because for numerous reasons. But he actually was on his way driving back to Eastern Ontario, back to Kemptville that day, or the day before, sorry, when I had gotten the call that I needed to be in downtown Toronto the next day. And so I called them and I said, they told me that I'm not allowed to drive there and that I need a caregiver or someone there. And I didn't really understand any of this healthcare lingo at the time. But yeah, I ended up being diagnosed, and I can say it a lot clearer now than I could then. But I got diagnosed, and I was told that I would need surgery, and an awake brain surgery, actually. And after the surgery was done, the neurologist was only able to get the middle of it out, not the whole thing. So I ended up being put onto a program of chemotherapy and radiation as well.
So you're telling me a bit before we kind of hopped on the call today about the process of getting diagnosed. Now, this is it's funny. It's not funny, but it's one of those things that you take for granted being in somewhere like Toronto, right? And do you want to talk about when you found out that it would, you would possibly lose your ability to drive, or you wouldn't be able to drive? What did the doctor say to you?
Oh, well, so when he was diagnosing me, excellent, doctor, neurologist, great guy. But he uh, he had said to me, he had kind of gone through everything, and I was just stone cold still. Like I was in shock. I didn't know what to think or say or anything, and what this meant. And then I said something to him along the lines of, "Well, but I can drive, right?" And he was like, "Well, there's public transportation in small towns, isn't there?" And I just started sobbing, like absolutely sobbing.
Yeah, like anyone from a small town can relate to that because it's well, not the cancer diagnosis. Do
No,
not get
no,
me here, but anyone can relate to that whole. Well, you can get around without a vehicle. It's like what island were you born on? So
yeah.
how did I'm seeing all sorts of people. Jamie's writing hashtag Kelsey Strong. Lara's writing hashtag kick Bob to the curb. Now you had early on kind of you've been sharing your story this whole time. You've been very open, very honest, very vulnerable to the world and to who is helping anyone that may be going through this as well. How did your perspective change as you went through cancer?
I would say that like from right in the beginning, actually, like when I got diagnosed, I originally wasn't planning on telling too many people. And the reason for that was simply I wanted to keep it personal. And for some people, that's what they decide to do, and that's okay. But for myself, I ended up sharing with people through social media that live about everything and what was going on, because I was actually having a lot of farmers message me and ask me about, oh, can you help me with this, or can you help me with this, and that kind of thing. And it was becoming too overwhelming to text them all back separately. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to put my story out there. And, like, we'll see how it all kind of relates. But for me, my perspective, it really honestly helped me a lot personally, because it changed my perspective on things a lot. I really truly am so blessed by how many family and friends, and even people I've never met before, like yourself. I've never met you in person, and how much support I've really had through everything. So I really think that your perspective on things changes when your life does a 180-degree flip like this pretty quick. So um and I guess the other thing is, I wrote down a point here about this, because it's true. But I was talking to young adults that have been diagnosed with brain tumors before, and brain cancer, and kind of listening in on what they were saying and what I was thinking and that kind of thing. And I'm not saying that I enjoy having to go through the treatments, because they aren't fun. But one thing though that I have enjoyed is that I've been taking this opportunity of not being able to drive, and coming home to be with dad again, and that kind of stuff. Like, how great of an opportunity is that, like, to come home and spend this much time with my dad, with my family again, and be able to go out in the fields with him. Like, we used to have, in the summer, he's working on a soil health project, so during the summer it was kind of interesting. We'd go out in the field together, and I'd always have a little chair with me, just like a little lawn chair, and it was my field chair, because I'd get so tired I couldn't walk. So, but like, it's just, for me, it was my perspective on things. And as I continue through, it'll continue that way.
Absolutely. How did something like personifying r- giving a name to your tumor, to kind of, we're kicking Bob to the curb. How did that help you mentally? How did that give you something to kind of deal with?
Well, I must say, I was actually not the one who came up with the idea to name the tumor Bob, but the way that Bob got his name was because of Jen Dolman, who's a farmer in Eastern Ontario, and we're family friends with them. And Jen was like, "Well, you gotta have a name for it, because, like, you want to get rid of it, and, like, you gotta personify it." Kind of idea. So I ended up naming it Bob, and it's it sounds crazy maybe, but going into radiation and everything, like, I told my radiation team right from the get-go that its name was Bob, and that I needed Bob out of here, and I didn't want to do. And so it was kind of nice, because, like, on my last day of radiation, they had said to me, they were like, "And you're, like, another step of the way there." And it's like, almost like team spirit in a way. But it's nice just to have that and know that it's going away.
Yeah, absolutely. So what sort of mental things have you, I mean, obviously this, and we don't have to dig too deep into it, but COVID itself has been a huge mental toll on so many people. It's been isolating. Now you became immunocompromised, and you yourself were not able to see a lot of people. So what sort of things did you reach out to kind of, besides, the social media community and, being able to be back with your dad, what sorts of things did you do to be able to help yourself mentally?
Well, I think a big thing I did was I started to get into stuff like yoga and meditation and things like that. But the other thing as well was that I started to um, like take online courses and that kind of thing. So I was trying to do things to keep me involved and keep me up to date on what was going on, and learn new things completely, which was really a good thing, I think, overall. Um, yeah, I get like I find that overall it's been a journey, but the other thing though is a lot of people ask me, a lot of doctors have asked me this too, and social workers that you deal with throughout the um, treatment process, is people had asked me about how I'm doing dealing with going through treatments during COVID times. Well, to be perfectly honest with you, I don't really know any different. And I mean, knock on wood, I hope to not find that out. I really haven't had like everything radiation wise. Like, I mean, I had to walk into the hospital, into the radiation rooms by myself all the time. I didn't have anyone there with me because I couldn't.
Yeah.
So, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just that was the way it was.
Yeah. And you, like you said, your dad was a huge player in here, and a huge part of you being in a good being able to get through this. Chris has a question here. He says, prior to the diagnosis, what is your favorite ag memory with your dad? Now, he's calling your dad Chuck. I
Is this
believe you're
Chris Moore?
yeah, this is Chris Moore. Your dad's name is middle name, I believe, is
Scott.
Scott. Chris naturally found out that his name was Charles, so he's got to come call him Chuck. So, what
Yeah.
is your favorite ag memory with your dad?
Oh, I don't know if he wants me to like tell the story on his on or not. Chris has a really big dog named Yeti. And my dad's not he's okay with dogs. He doesn't mind them, but he didn't grow up with like, numerous dogs like running around or anything. And I guess
Like 9 or whatever they have.
yeah. And I guess Yeti got a little ambitious one day and was like, "Oh, I think that's a sheep or something. I don't know." And he thought dad was a sheep, and he like jumped on dad. And ever since then, he's like terrified of Yeti. Like, I don't think we've been back to Chris and Lindsay since.
Oh man, that's so good. So is there anything else when it comes to your journey? If there was one thing that you knew somebody else was, they have, not that you'd ever wish upon this, but it is World Cancer Day today. If there's any bit of advice you would put on anyone who happens to get this diagnosis, what would it be?
I would say before before making any decisions or anything, give yourself time to accept the diagnosis and what you're going through. Um, but don't set, because where I went really wrong in my diagnosis was after I got diagnosed. I mean, I knew it would affect me, and I was really upset about work and not being allowed to work for a period of time, and everything. But what I was really upset about was that I wanted to be there for the farmers that I work with. And I honestly, like, I still remember sobbing, calling my boss and telling him about what was going on. And like, I was like, but what about the farmers? Like, I want to, like, I feel terrible. And he's like, we'll figure it out. Don't worry. You have all their plans done and everything. And I was like, but I feel so bad. He's like, you can't control this.
Yeah,
Like,
spoken
um,
like a true agronomist.
yeah. And, but at the end of the day, like, you really just, give yourself time. Like, you know, you hear about self-care and self-love, but like really you got to take care of yourself and put yourself as a priority during that time, because you know, honestly, we have one life, and it's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, it truly is, and that gives you it really does give you perspective on the big things and the not so big things. So this next while is going to be, obviously you're still going through treatments, you're still working through. What are you most looking forward to about getting back into the field?
Well, being, as you can probably tell with me smiling like ear to ear, but I am so excited to be back out in the field and being able to um, like just be in my happy place first of all, but also it, it's back in my happy place of not just being in a field but also helping people, like the farmers, feel happy again, and not being able to tell them like, oh, your soybeans look great or your corn looks great, and I can't wait for that time again. um and it's a passion of mine, and I I just look forward to being able to really just really work with it again.
Yeah, totally. So, if there's a crop besides pumpkins and clearly not asparagus, what is your favorite crop to work with?
Oh, good question. Um, I don't know if Wheat Pete's gonna come after me if I don't say wheat.
Oh, he's fine.
No, I do really enjoy working with wheat. But I one crop that I learned about while I worked out in Saskatchewan a few years ago, and I've brought the love back hardcore to Ontario, is canola. I love it.
Have you done any work with winter canola? I know Mark Brock a couple weeks ago was on our Monday night stream of the Agronomist, and he was talking about how he's growing winter canola in Ontario. Do you have you worked with that at all?
You know, funny you should say that. So so I've worked in Midwestern Ontario, like up north of Guelph, and into, like, I don't know if you know the counties in the area, but like Grey County, Dufferin County. That's where our farm is in Dufferin. I've worked in Eastern Ontario, and I've worked in Saskatchewan, all cooler climates. And so I really haven't had the, I guess, chance to work with winter canola too much. It's doable. We just haven't. I haven't really had a chance to work with winter canola too much. I worked with spring canola though, and working with it in Ontario is a little bit of a different game than out west. Out west, it's kind of like every other field.
Yeah.
And here it's almost like a specialty crop in a way, just in the sense of like the marketability of it as well. And it's interesting, adds to the rotation. I love it.
Devin Walker's asking. He says, "Can we discuss the 2021 and 2022 pumpkin seeding acre intention report?" He's asking for his daughters. Have you been able to
Oh.
do any reading on that? I know. I think I've seen Devin tweeting about it before. That he's. I think they always have some sort of pumpkin competition. Maybe Devin, correct me if I'm wrong, but they love growing their pumpkins up there.
Oh, I have not seen that yet. Is there a Canadian report by chance somewhere that I could
maybe,
find?
maybe you could author it. That would work. You know.
Yeah, do some extra research on that. Yeah, well, actually, I do find it really interesting. One thing I used to do with the pumpkins was I used to do specialty contracts with pumpkins. So I would work with brides or any type of event, and like I had a catalog that I made for them, and then every No, I'm serious.
I know. That's why it's so great.
And it was great though because then they could see like a picture of it, and then they'd tell me how many they wanted and that kind of thing. And yeah, we would do that. And actually, I learned that I don't think the wedding market is the market for me to work in with that. But
That
I well, just let me tell you, a teacup pumpkin or the pumpkins that are like this big. And I one time a bride, she said that she was like, "Oh yeah, I'll get like I think it was like 50 or whatever of them," and I hand delivered them, and she was like really upset because they weren't in the shape of an actual teacup. So
you're like, you do know there's still plants, individual plants, right?
yeah. Yeah, and I again, like this is kind of going back to your comment about like Ontario agriculture. Like we just have different types of markets. I would say like when you're that close to Toronto at that time, like it you have the market there, you have the population there, and they want it. So I also like had gotten into like renting. I had a straw bale rental business going for events and
I like it. I think you were in quite the market there. I mean, Lara's just saying, Kelsey, I just got engaged. Can I get a copy of this catalog? It might be a bit far for delivery as she's up in Calgary, but I would
Ooh.
definitely be right up Lara's alley. So that's good for you. And in comment to the earlier question about the report, Lindsay says, I think you're the report, Kelsey. Just make it up. And Devin says, yes, she really is the pumpkin report. Move over, Wheat Pete. Pumpkin Kelsey needs a spotlight. So I like that. I think we should get shirts made like Pumpkin Kelsey. Let's go.
Oh my, that's hilarious. Well, I must say, like Wheat Pete's passion for wheat, that's like equal to my passion for pumpkins.
Although, if Wheat Pea were on here, and I love this man, do not get me wrong, but he would be about up here. Like you talk at a normal level. Pete's just excited all the time. So, Pete, if
Yeah.
you're watching this is all with love. And Devin Walker says RealAg Pumpkin School. So maybe that's our next agronomic school. If anyone wants to sponsor us, come our way. Kelsey and I will bring you the pumpkin school. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
So before we wrap up here today, is there anything else you would like to add about anything you've gone through, or just anything you'd like to say to any of our listeners?
I guess not really, but just if anyone ever, needs someone to talk to or like, has family or friends going through this kind of stuff for themselves. It's I recently got what they call a cancer coach, which is someone who actually helps guides you through things like not just mentally, emotionally, but also helps you figure out if you need to go to like physical therapy to get back into shape or that kind of thing for life after cancer, so to speak. And it's the one thing that she said, and I can see it too, is that it's tough on the patient, don't get me wrong, but it's tough on caregivers too. So it's okay to reach out.
Scott, shout out to Scotty Banks. If you're watching, we love you.
Yeah, it was called Agent Scotty Banks, like Agent Cody Banks.
Agent Scotty Banks. Oh my gosh. I thought everyone forgot about Cody Banks, but I think we need to bring him back. It's probably on Disney Plus somewhere, so that was a time to be alive. But unfortunately, we are out of time, Kelsey. But thank you very much for being so brave and so strong. I know I'm speaking for so many people that it has just been incredible to see your strength. And I know there's probably been some days where you didn't feel the strength, but we are all sending our love to you. So thank you very much, and I'm sure we'll chat soon again.
Thank you.
And thanks everyone who tuned in today. It was terrific to have you along for the ride. I love seeing all your comments and all your support. It's so great to be able to. I know we're not in person, but to have a little bit of live interaction, I know it helps me too. So thank you very much for joining in. And thank you always for tuning into Real Agriculture. We appreciate it very much. And join in tomorrow. Sean will be the host on RealAg Live once again at 1 p.m. Mountain, 3 p.m. Eastern. I do not know who the guest will be, but Sean will have somebody. So stay tuned for that. And thanks for getting real and getting connected.